Crolla versus Linares, really interesting fight, really entertaining fight, and a fight that I have very, very strong opinions on. I think the scoring and the associated commentary in this fight was ludicrous. I thought the levels were so on display inside of the ring, but were possibly even more on display outside of the ring when you're talking about the levels of commentary and the levels of scoring between Carl Frost and Paulie Malignaggi. Jorge Linares, for me, put on one of the great performances in the ring tonight. I had this very wide, very wide. I didn't score the fight live, but to be honest, I pretty much gave everything to Linares. At the end of every round, there were maybe one or two rounds that you could possibly give to Crolla in terms of momentum. As far as I'm concerned, this was a very, very, very wide, very comfortable, easy win for Jorge Linares. Linares, for me, was comfortable throughout. I didn't buy into the commentary that he was hurt. I didn't buy into the commentary that he was flagging. I didn't really buy into the commentary that Anthony Crolla was having spells of success. For me, Crolla was largely hitting gloves. He wasn't landing effective offense. And Jorge Linares, the work he was putting in was world class. Offensively, the jab from Linares was superb. The jab to the body was Floyd Mayweather-esque. It was that good. Go back and watch that jab to the body that Linares was throwing. Really, really spectacular stuff. Linares' hooks and power punches to the body were sublime. Now, there was one incident of a low blow, which is undeniable. But apart from that, those punches were perfectly placed. They were landing on the belt, and the reason Crolla wasn't liking them wasn't because they were low, but was because a guy like Jorge Linares was repeatedly landing hard punches to the solar plexus and to the stomach area, which Crolla didn't like. The hand speed of Linares, the punch variety of Linares, was blistering. Even in the 11th, 12th round, after the commentators had been warning that he was being run down and being, tired and worn out, the hand speed was absolutely blistering. The combinations were spectacular. And the levels between Crolla and Linares in terms of offence, if you looked at the effectiveness, the eye-catchingness of the shots, Linares was just a different class. Defensively, I thought Linares' movement was spectacular. His footwork in the ring was next level. His upper body movement and his ability to get out of range and shift his angles and get low. This is a guy with everything. He could bob and weave under. He could adjust the angles to avoid shots. He could take a neat step back and then circle laterally around the ring. For me, it was an exceptional performance from Linares, and I had it really, really wide. I would say that if I sat down and scored it, I would be inclined to say this would be somewhere between 12-0 and 10-2. I would actually struggle to make a case for 9-3. And I think the scorecards 1-1-5, 1-1-4, 1-1-5, 1-1-3 are ludicrous. To suggest that Anthony Crolla took 5, maybe 6 rounds of this fight is very, very, very bizarre. And as Paulie Malignaggi said, that would be a case of clear home cooking. And I think that was very much the case. Crolla, a lot of credit goes out to him. Real nice guy. I've met Crolla, and he is as nice as they say he is. A real gentleman of the sport, hard man, tough as nails, good engine, great, great heart. And he showed a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of, he showed what he was made of to stay in there and to actually start coming on and trying to pour it on in the sort of middle rounds of the fight. But the truth was, for me, he was hopelessly outgunned. He was hopelessly outskilled, outslicked, outclassed by a far, far more versatile, complete technical fighter. Linares, for me, is an elite world champion. He's number one lightweight in the division. There's an argument that he should be in the pound-for-pound top 10 conversation. He's that good. Anthony Crolla is a vastly improved fighter, but he's a guy with limited power. He's a guy with limited versatility, and essentially he was walking forward, eating a lot of punches from a guy in Linares who was throwing a lot cleaner, a lot snappier, and a lot more eye-catching work. And I really do not see how judges scored 5 or 6 rounds here to Crolla. Now, there were periods in the fight where Linares was slightly less active. He had a slightly lower output. But for me, that's because when the fight was slow, when they were playing chess a bit more, when it was a bit more technical, Linares was winning those rounds as well. I mean, I think it was round 7 or round 8 where it was a low action round for both guys, and Linares was just working beautifully off the jab. You know, moving, adjusting, throwing a little jab to the body. And really, I thought as we got to like 10th, 11th round, Linares was in comfort zone. I thought he was enjoying himself in there. I thought he was moving well, picking a jab well, throwing blistering combinations, and I thought it was a fantastic performance. There isn't a lightweight in the game that I would pick to beat Linares off that performance. You know, a lot of people question Linares' heart and stamina late on in fights, but to me, he was by far the stronger man in the 11th and 12th rounds. He still had a lot of gas left in the tank, and whilst Crolla was coming on in the middle rounds, and whilst he was picking up his output and putting the pressure on, I still didn't really feel he was doing enough to win rounds in bulk. I thought that Linares' offence and the punches Linares was throwing and landing were simply far more noticeable and numerous and higher in quality. I thought it was a great performance from Linares. I don't want to go too overboard. I thought it was a really great performance from Linares. I thought it was a real memorable performance. I thought it was that good. I thought he was so complete in there. I think he's one of those fighters who pretty much has everything. You know, maybe he doesn't have the most elite inside game, actually, if you're looking to try and find a hole in him. But in terms of the technical side to his boxing, he is so well-rounded, so versatile. Some of the punches he was picking in there, the speed he was throwing them at, the combinations he was working off them were as beautiful as you can see in this sport. There was some talk towards the end of the broadcast about a rematch. For me, a rematch between these two, I would so confidently pick Linares. I really think the scorecards were not a viable representation to what happened in the ring. And I don't think we should let the scorecards try and sway our opinion of what actually happened in there. You know, this was a wide, comfortable win, and this wasn't something that I could necessarily see Crolla reversing if it happened again in 6 months' time or 9 months' time. I think it was simply a case of levels, of class, of a dynamic, versatile fighter versus a guy who is a high-class presser fighter and a high-class one-trick pony, if you like. Crolla can come again. He really has proved to be a world-level fighter. A fight with Terry Flanagan is maybe a more viable option now. That's still a major fight, and a fight that Crolla will fancy. And the domestic division is very hot as well. Obviously, you've got the likes of Luke Campbell, etc. There's big fights to be made with Crolla. He's a young guy. He's only 29, I believe. He's very popular. He's obviously got a very big following in Manchester. And a fight like this, even in defeat, probably does nothing to lower his colours. You know, it does show that he isn't at the elite of the sport in terms of the, the top of the division. But I don't think too many of us necessarily considered Anthony Crolla the #1 lightweight in the division anyway. So yeah, I don't think Crolla loses much in defeat. He can definitely come again. I wouldn't write him off winning a world title again. But a rematch against Jorge Linares, I'm not 100% sure that would be the most sensible move for him. I'd be very confident of Linares repeating this. I thought the gap was very vast. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts. So I'm aware that this is a divisive fight. I'm aware that the way I saw it was very different to the way a lot of people on Twitter saw it. Certainly very different to the way Carl Froch saw it. I thought Carl Froch had a terrible night tonight. I thought his commentary was ludicrous, farcical, and I think at times really indicated that he didn't have a very deep understanding of boxing, which is bizarre given the heights that he's risen to in the sport. But it was to the point where he didn't even seem to be able to determine whether punches were landing or not. Call it bias if you like, call it ignorance if you like. I thought he had a really bad night. Malignaggi was on fire. I thought Malignaggi's commentary and analysis was world-leading, as was Linares' performance in the ring. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you score it? How good is Linares? Where does Crolla go from here? If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, you haven't checked out my stuff before, please take the time to subscribe so you can check out all my other videos. Many thanks indeed for watching, guys. Truly appreciate it. Cheers.